What's up, guys? This is Scuba Steve here. Now, I've heard a lot of negative things about Initial D 5th stage, but I want to show you the deep things, the beautiful things that I find personally in Initial D 5th stage. You guys ready for this? It's going to be a lot of stuff, so ready? Okay, so Initial D covers the two main characters, Takumi and Keisuke, their development from the novice stage all the way to the expert level, which is what they're at right now. So I'm going to show you videos of the progression, mainly the computer simulations, visual simulations, their aura and intuition, and also the Fujiwara Zone or the flow state. That's what we're going to be covering. So it's going to be deep stuff. Hope you're ready. Lesson number 1, Computer Simulations.
Always said the most important instrument when it comes to driving technique is right here.
All I know is that whenever you're battling someone, you can learn pretty much whatever you need by driving behind them. You can get a good gauge on the habits, the weaknesses, even how the suspension is set up. How you get all that stuff out of your computer simulations, I'll never know.
In my opinion, the fact you can get out there and drive the way you do without thinking about it and still keep up with me makes you the scary one. You could just apply theories to your skills. You'd be the perfect driver.
Okay, so basically 5th stage and also final stage, the competition is between mainly two teams, Team Sidewinder and also Project D. Team Sidewinder, they're trying to find out every single pro and con of Project D, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are. Now Project D, since they know this, that they're facing an information warfare campaign, they're trying to do two things, constantly get better, and also don't reveal your best performance. Great athletes train their minds as well as their bodies. There are various mental conditioning techniques many use when preparing for an event. Perhaps the best known technique is visualization, creating a mental image not only of the desired result, but also of every move that will be taken en route to your ultimate goal.
Like you, be strong to hold the powers of the sun.
見えてくるんですよ。あの時も自分の車の外側のタイヤがこれから通っていくラインがギリギリを通せるとうまく説明できないけど、これいつもそうなんです。見えた時は
Driving the 8.6, he's desperately chasing after the imaginary Impreza that he sees in front of him. When he's in the Impreza, it's the opposite. He's putting distance between himself and the 8.6, running him down. See, if Takumi was anything like me, I'm betting he can see the Impreza through the 8.6's front windshield as clearly as if it were really there.
Alright guys, I wanted to show you this because this is basically what Takumi would see when he's racing. He's running from the Subaru. In the 8.6, he knows he's going to do the same thing every single time. The 8.6 handles a certain way, and the Subaru is going to take a different line. It's easy to do this. All you have to do is set a time with the 8.6 and set a time with the Subaru. You can watch them battle it out and see the differences between the two cars. Obviously the Subaru is way better on the exits. A lot more traction helps. And that's the basics of visualization and how it can help deciding the pros and cons of each car.
Look at his taillights. Look at the road in front of him. All you need to see is right there. I've got to burn that image into my head and focus on following the line Ryosuke showed me. It's the only way I'll win this thing. Yeah, the line he's using, it changes every single one. This doesn't make sense. Is that the kind of thing he does when he goes for a time attack? Control my strings. Man, what the hell is it with me and old geezers and fast cars? It seems like no matter what move I try and make, he's always one step.
Of interesting note was what E.G. Kubo of Team Sidewinder said about Shinji. In most corners of a mountain pass, you can't see the entire curve from the entrance to the exit. No matter how experienced they are, drivers instinctively maintain some sort of safety margin. The issue is unrelated to the level of technique, but Shinji doesn't have that kind of hesitation at all. I feel like he can see the exit of the corner, which is invisible to the rest of us. Our next topic is aura and intuition. Aura is something that you give off. It's, for instance, it's your emotions, or the rhythm that you're giving off, or, for instance, your skill level, also your focus level. Now, intuition is a little different. Intuition is something that you perceive. You can get that through experience, through trauma, through training, or you can actually have a personality like a natural empath, like Shinji. Okay, so now we're discussing the Fujiwara Zone. What exactly is this zone? Is this some sort of magic, some sort of teleportation technique? You know, is this some sort of crazy physics, deep stuff?
3、2、1、go!
Remember, this is about art. This is showing that there's some sort of deeper significance. So what's the deeper significance? The flow state. Okay, this is something you need to look up, the flow state. This is a state where when you're at the highest emotional, physical, visual level that a person can be at. It's amazing stuff. I put the link in the description below so you can watch a separate video about that. It's amazing. So with this one, it has to do about Fujiwara, because there's actually 4 different cars that do this. Fujiwara's 8.6. This represents his all-wheel drive acceleration. NSX, even though it's not named, represents his high-speed acceleration or when he changes his pace into a dangerous pace. The same thing happens with the NSX. It's when he switches his rhythm to racing a dangerous or risky pace. Now the 8.6 Coupe, this has to do with a specific technique he's using. Okay, it's caused by the extra speed, which is the lift and coast line that he's using. So how do they get to this? How do they get to this level? Well, Fujiwara's we're going to discuss in a second, but the RX-7 has to do with his training technique that he's using. Acceleration, consistent lap times. That's as part of his training. And also with the NSX, it has to do with conserving tires. And then with the 8.6 Coupe, it has to do with the lift and coast line that he's using. But I covered that in a previous video. Okay, so to discuss the Fujiwara Zone, we're going to listen to a conversation between Ryusuke Takahashi and Fumihiro. This was during the battle with the A86 versus the ZZW30. That's the Takumi Fujiwara versus Kai Kogashiwa, their second rematch here. Alright, so here's the conversation. So Ryusuke starts, he goes, he shows it when certain conditions are met. What's important is the rhythm of the course. Now Fumihiro says, a point where the rhythm changes? Now this is interesting. So the Ryusuke's response, there's actually two responses, one in the animation and one in the manga. The animation says, yes, from a rhythmic repetition of stepping on the gas and releasing right away, to a delaying of the release a bit. It's the peak of the Fujiwara Zone. Now the manga, it's interesting, he says here, you just need to pay attention to the acceleration and brake control, and you will be able to change the rhythm of the race. It's kind of two different messages, but it's pretty interesting stuff. Now Fumihiro says, I've always wanted to ask you, what exactly is the Fujiwara Zone? Ryusuke says, he didn't just start showing it recently. He did it a long time ago. When I raced against him on Akina, I caught a glimpse of it. He says, I feel like it was refined after he raced against Purple Shadow. Now if you remember the battle, it was the A86 versus the S2000. Simply put, it's his level of training in the 8.6. When it comes to Fujiwara, his level is beyond our normal imagination. It must be the result of his abnormal practice environment. Fumihiro says, you said that he's been hearing the voice of the 8.6 during the previous battle. Actually, yes. In the auto industry, they often use the phrase, the driver and the car as one. But in reality, no one can handle a 1-ton piece of metal as if it were one of their limbs. But something like that happens with the 8.6. Now there's two different responses here, one in the video and there's another one in the manga. The video, he says, he can use the best part of the tires just when they're beginning to skid, whenever he wants. He can also freely switch between the side for turning and the slide for acceleration. As a result, what happens is that the 8.6 accelerates like an all-wheel drive. Now in the manga it says, when he's at the edge of losing grip, he can control the car to its best position. He can also freely drift the car to its best line. When he drives the car like that, it makes the 8.6 behave like a four-wheel drive. Okay, here we are, the Fujiwara Zone. Now remember, the Fujiwara Zone is basically the combination of his flow state combined with his technique. Okay, remember where the flow state is his focus and his visualization, and combined with this technique. Now remember, he's improved quite a bit because of Goddard and Joshua. Now you guys need to look up this battle, 8.6 versus the S2000. That explains a whole lot. Now you also need to remember that Bunta's technique and Ryusuke's technique has helped him to become a different driver. He's no longer reactionary. He's an intuitive driver. Now what does that mean? Well, there's this article here. It's an awesome article. It's from intuitivespeed.com, and it explains this about the difference between a reactionary driver and an intuitive driver. It says many drivers react or correct when the car breaks loose, but correcting after the fact, after the wave of energy has started moving, means that the car is defining where its energy is flowing. If the car is running the energy flow show, you're left scrambling, trying to get the car's energy back under control. Intuitive drivers typically don't react to the car's energy flow because they are proactive. They direct it. They can sense the energy flowing through the car, and therefore they can sense when the car is about to break loose, which gives them the opportunity to manage the situation by managing the way the energy flows through the car. This is amazing stuff, and the only way you can get this is through experience. Now, the next slide here. Okay, so this is because of the race with Godarm and using his ability. See, Godarm, he uses the best part of the tires when it begins to slide. Takumi picked up this technique. This makes it so he can transition from grip to drift easily, and that means he can use any line that he wants. That's the technique that he has. Now, this also means that he can also make smooth transitions between all his other techniques. Now remember, he has the two gutter runs, the one for understeer, the one for acceleration. He has his weight shift technique, which is using the lifting up the wheel, and he has inertial brake drift, and plus he has also other ones too. But the point is he can make smooth, quick transitions without thinking. This is just the second nature, the flow state part of it. He can make quick transitions. Now what's the effect of that? It means that he can make the 8.6 accelerate like an all-wheel drive car. And this explains it this way. So when you're going into a turn that has a gutter, he uses the technique, which is the wheel left technique, which means he can use the shortcut at full speed. The battle you want to watch is 8.6 versus the MX-5. He uses that technique. Then going to the next turn, he sharply points the car to the exit, and then he floors the gas with no counter steer. This is incredibly difficult to do with an FR vehicle. Incredibly difficult. It means you have to have a superb acceleration technique. The battle you need to watch also is 8.6 versus the Cappuccino. Okay? Which means that instead of using his power to go around the turn, he uses the increased momentum, not the power to accelerate. And that helps him to equal the all-wheel drive acceleration. You can see the line here that an all-wheel drive car would take because it's very stable, okay? But using the shortcut, his apex is a little more on the inside, which means he can get a better line and then points the car to exit quicker. And that's basically his technique. It's an amazing technique, extremely, extremely difficult. If anybody's driven an FR vehicle, you know exactly how hard it is to do this, to floor the gas with no counter steer. Incredibly difficult. Usually at this point you have to float the throttle because the car is too unstable. But he's able to floor the gas with no counter steer. It's incredible technique, and it takes a lot of experience with the car to get to that point. Well, thank you very much, guys, for watching the video. There's a lot that goes into Initial D, and I personally find that even though it's an artistic expression, they're expressing some very real ideas, like the flow state. That is extremely, extremely real. They've done scientific studies of how the brain chemistry changes depending upon how much you actually focus. It's incredible stuff. I'm including the description below of some videos that show that and how people have actually used that for sports. There's one article here with Michael Jordan, how he gets into that zone, Kobe Bryant. There's also an article I'm going to show you about where Shinji, how he hums. It's also another one. And how people use that same focus in sports. It's amazing. Also intuition and aura. That's an also interesting concept. I'm going to show an article for that. Also the racing mindset and intuitive driving. I'll put that in the description below also. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed it. There's a lot of work, a lot of fun, a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of Red Bull. But I hope you enjoy it. If you like it, please subscribe, like the video, share the video, and also put your comments down below. Alright? Thank you guys very much.